8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is BBC News from London. Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. In a statement, the palace said the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. BBC Television is broadcasting this special programme reporting the death of Her Majesty the Queen.
Good afternoon from San Francisco, Commodores, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously a somber day, but a day maybe also to celebrate the passing of Her Majesty the Queen. That scene that you see here in the PIP is appeared just Julie, a few minutes after the death was reported yesterday on the BBC. I started watching the BBC here on the tube, so I saw that announcement live. I'm sure many of you did not. Welcome to our show number 551. We're delighted to have New York Yacht Club Commodore Paul Zabetakis with us live from Jamestown, Rhode Island, just across on Connecticut Island there from Newport. We're in a long segment with Commodore. It's nice to have him on and to celebrate the achievements of what is arguably the best yacht club in the world, certainly one of the best, and delighted to have Paul with us. Julia is here as usual, my co-host, Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, and what a day it was yesterday, and
Yes.
the next 10 days are going to be.
Yep.
How are you feeling?
I was affected by it like everybody else because it requires one to reflect on many things.
Right, and you know, if it defines my life in some ways because I was born in '53, the year she her coronation, and I guess her dad died in '52, right? So
Yeah.
I think she was actually technically, but like King Charles III his coronation won't be for quite some time apparently.
Right.
But as I said, welcome to show number 551, and Dr. Paul Zabetakis is with us. We'll get to him in a moment. But I did want to do a bit of a tribute to Her Majesty the Queen, a great sailing family. Her husband, of course, a great sailor. She is a patron of any number of yacht clubs around the world, including the Royal Yacht Squadron and the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club, among others. So this statement was issued by the Royal Yachting Association late last night or early this morning. The RYA mourns the passing of Her Majesty the Queen. The RYA is deeply saddened by the loss of our patron, Her Majesty the Queen. Our thoughts and condolences are with the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, who is the president of the RYA, a longtime patron, and the entire royal family. Known for her sense of duty and her devotion to a life of service, Her Majesty has been an important figurehead for the UK and the Commonwealth, needless to say. She has ruled for longer than any other monarch in British history, as you all know, for 70 years, becoming a much loved and respected figure across the globe. In 1948, Her Royal Highness Princess Elizabeth, Duchess of Edinburgh, and Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, were listed as new members of the RYA, known then as the Yacht Racing Association. It became the Royal Yachting Association in '52, when Sir Ralph Gore, then president, spoke of, quote, Her Majesty's recent command that the name of the association will in future be the Royal Yachting Association, unquote. He had written to the Home Secretary at the time asking him to kindly to convey Her Majesty our great appreciation of the command. The royal family has a long history of seafaring, as I'm sure you all know. Over the centuries, the monarchy has sailed aboard 83 royal yachts, including the most recent HMY Britannia, which often hosted the RYA Council meetings during Cows Week. In addition to her diplomatic duties on royal tours, HMY Britannia was also a vessel for family holidays. During the summer months, the royal family would often take off on what became known as the aptly named Western Isles Tour, cruising around Scotland. The tour often included a stop off at the Castle of May to visit the Queen Mother before berthing in Aberdeen so that Her Majesty the Queen could travel to her favorite summer home at Balmoral. With so many fond memories around the yacht, Her Majesty the Queen officially took her leave of it in 1997, and the vessel was placed in the port of Leith in Scotland, where it serves as a floating museum and events venue. All of the clocks on board remain stopped at 3:01, the exact time that Her Majesty disembarked for the last time. In 1948, Blue Bottle was presented to Her Majesty the Queen, then HRH Princess Elizabeth, and HRH Prince Philip as a wedding present from the Island Sailing Club of Cowes, Isle of Wight. Blue Bottle is the only British dragon to have won an Olympic medal, picking up a bronze at the 56 Melbourne Olympic Games. Chris Preston, chair of the Royal Yachting Association, today said, quote, like so many around the world, we are deeply saddened at the loss of Her Majesty the Queen. Her patronages and charities have covered a wide range of issues, from opportunities for young people to the preservation of wildlife and the environment. It was an honor for the RYA to host Her Majesty the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh on a trip to Cowes in 2012, where they were introduced to a number of young onboard sailors who were enjoying the opportunity to try sailing and windsurfing. Quote, having Her Majesty as royal patron alongside the support of her husband, HRH, the Duke of Edinburgh, as former RYA president, and her daughter, the Princess Royal, who's the current president, has undoubtedly helped us to raise awareness of our aims to increase participation in boating, to promote safety afloat, and to raise sailing standards. Her Majesty will be sorely missed, and we offer our deepest condolences to our president, the Princess Royal, and her family. That, of course, is a statement from the Royal Yachting Association. Just one other statement I thought we should address, we should read. This morning from the Royal Yacht Squadron, sent to me by one of their members, and particularly because of the close association with the RYS to, well, New York Yacht Club, of course, dating from 1850, 51, and St. Francis Yacht Club, and any number of other yacht clubs around the world. This bulletin from their Commodore, quote, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II was the patron of the Royal Yacht Squadron throughout her reign. She gave unstinting support to our late Admiral, His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, in his love of sailing. She owned and sailed an HMY Bloodhound, and she still personally owned the Dragon Blue Bottle and took a close interest in her recent successes. All members of the Royal Yacht Squadron will deeply mourn her death, and we send our utmost sympathy to His Majesty the King and to all members of the royal family. The squadron will fire a 21-gun salute at 1300 today. They did so, 9th of September, to mark the death, and a 21-gun salute following the proclamation on Saturday the 10th to mark the proclamation. Long live the King. Signed, James Holman, Commodore of the esteemed Royal Yacht Squadron. We'll do some more at the end of the show. We've got some personal tributes that come in. We have Sir Ben Ainsley's statement that he gave at the press conference today in France at the Sail GP, a heartfelt statement from Sir Ben, and a couple other interesting lighter notes, but I did want to cover those two from our friends in the UK. And on behalf of all of us, all the FOSI, I'm sure Julia, you and I, and I'm sure the Commodore, well, I want to extend all of our viewers around the world and to the royal family and all of the people in the Commonwealth.
Right.
And sailors everywhere, because she was, we did a nice tribute for Prince Philip when he passed away. Terrific life, well led, and a huge, probably the most famous person in the world, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, people have said straightforwardly and not so, she was this queen of the world. She's the only queen that everybody still remembers.
Indeed. Okay, let's get into the starting line here. We're not going to do anything else, so we're going to have John Emmett's regular report a little later, but I wanted to get right into this report with Commodore Zabetakis. He's 3 hours ahead of us, and I'm sure he's got duties in Newport tonight, Friday, and over the weekend in prep for the Resolute Cup. You all know Harbor Court, or at least know of it. If you haven't been there, it's one of the most spectacular clubhouses anywhere in the world. In Newport, of course, the former Brown Mansion up on the hill in the south end of the harbor. And today, in particular, we'd like to talk with Commodore about the Resolute Cup, which runs next week, the 12th through the 17th of September. It's a qualifier for the Invitational Cup, which we'll also talk about, next summer's Invitational Cup. And the Resolute Cup, though, that happens next week, was first run in 2010 as the U.S. qualifying series for the Rolex New York Yacht Club Invitational Cup. The biennial regatta, which is sailed out of New York Yacht Club's Harbor Court, has since developed an identity of its own. Yacht clubs from around the U.S. send their best amateur sailors to Newport to compete for national bragging rights and the possibility, only one club, it's the possibility of a trip to the Rolex New York Yacht Club Invitational Cup, sailing's premier international Corinthian big boat regatta. After canceling the 2020 edition due to COVID, this is a statement from New York, we are very excited to present the event this year. The 2022 Resolute Cup will be sailed, as we said, September 12 to 17 in New York Yacht Club's fleet of 23 sonars and, new this year, a fleet of RS-21s provided by RS Sailing. With provided sails, equalized rig tune, and regular boat rotation, it's a true one design event. And it's arguably the coolest event in the world right now of any intra-club, inter-club regatta. And with that, I'd like to bring in from Jamestown, Rhode Island, Commodore Paul Zabetakis. He's in Jamestown. He's the current Commodore in his first year of the esteemed New York Yacht Club. Welcome, Paul.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Any thoughts about Her Majesty before we move on to the yacht racing matters?
Yeah, well, obviously, I think we're all saddened, as we've talked about. I mean, one of the things that we'll be doing sometime next year is requesting that the King Charles III dedicate a trophy, the King's Cup. Now, we've had a race, it used to be the King's Cup starting in 1905. And then in 1952, or 1953, when Queen Elizabeth ascended to the throne, we retired that trophy, and the Queen issued a new trophy to us, the Queen's Cup, which we've been racing for. In fact, next July, when we'll be racing for it, it'll be the 70th year that we've raced for that trophy. So we're hoping before then, obviously, to replace it then with the new King's Cup. We'll be, obviously speaking with the King or his Privy Council at some point about that.
Is the Queen's Cup still awarded during the cruise?
No, actually, we separated from the cruise because as we looked at the deed of gift more closely, it really is open to any yacht or any owner of a yacht who's part of the U.S. sailing. And it was difficult, obviously, if we're on the cruise, for someone to suddenly just join us for one day. So we've been running it separate from the cruise, although this year we may run at least either just before or after the cruise, but we've tried to separate it so that more people can join in.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in the tech check, I sailed for a number of years with Commodore George Carmody, Commodore of one of the clubs down on Long Island, and in his New York 40, and we won the New York 40 division of the Queen's Cup during the cruise from memory quite some years ago, and it's
1842.
Well, it wasn't quite that long ago.
Probably not that long ago.
Feels like it was 1842. The hair was a little darker and a little less thin. Commodore, it says here on your lower third, I put it in MD. You're actually a doc. What kind of a doctor are you? In fact, Julia, I guess you saw in the tech check.
Yeah.
I was going to ask Julia if she knew what kind of a doctor you were.
Yeah, so that's obviously kidney. So I'm a nephrologist, which is focuses on the kidney and fluid and electrolytes. Helped when I was actually in practice running a dialysis clinic in New York, and then the last bit of my career I worked for a company, dialysis company. And so as well, there's my little bio there. I went to medical school, University of Tennessee. My mother's from Tennessee. In fact, my wife's from Tennessee. So we have a long connection there. And went back up to Pittsburgh for my residency, and then trained at Yale, which is actually where I learned to sail. So I'm Pittsburgh born and bred. Never sailed on a boat until I was at Yale during my fellowship, and they had in the summer, the students were out, and they said, any postgraduate fellows want to learn to sail, come to the Yale Sailing Center in Branford. So 2 of us signed up. I loved it. Started my practice in 1977, and was sitting around the doctor's lounge, and a couple of doctors were talking about sailing, that they needed some rail meat. I said, sign me up.
Who was there in that era at Yale on the undergrads?
Yeah, I don't know. I should find out. I mean, I didn't know any of them, obviously, because I was just there as a graduate student, but it was just in the summer.
Pittsburgh, Memphis, Yale.
Yeah.
A lot of comments in here already. We're going to break our comment record today.
There we go.
Yeah, there's Baton Rouge, who's batting Ken, and you may know Batten down in Charleston. Don Lunabos across the bridge. Ken Sabins in Toledo. AYC, and I guess that means American Yacht Club or Austin Yacht Club. Facebook user, I believe, is J. Frederick Bland down in Austin. Yeah, AYC did well in the last Resolute Cup, is in again this year.
They were second. Yeah, they were second.
Julie Ahrens. Hello, Julie. She's in Cleveland, mourning the loss, as we all are, of Her Majesty, the Queen. Luca Craig, it's raining tears of sadness here in Tauranga. Luca's down in New Zealand. It still doesn't seem real, as though our Queen would always be there. Yeah, that's something. She was the grandmother for, all of us in many respects. Thank you, Alistair Murray, who's down in Australia. You must know Alistair, Commodore. He's the head of Ronstan, or was. He's now the executive chairman, I think, of their board. And lots. Monica Diaz is on in Spain. Andrew Watson. Hello, Andrew. Thank you. We're all, it was tough. My mother, who's on here, Paul, she's Janice F. Davis. She heard that when she was the princess, she said, I heard her radio stuff during World War II.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Not often that the Queen shed a tear in public, but she did when her yacht Britannia was decommissioned. Thierry de Jong, who's from the Netherlands and in California these days. Okay, let's carry on here. Commodore, you had a great summer, another great summer at the Yacht Club, including the annual regatta, which is one of the highlights, if not the highlight, along with the cruise and I suppose now Race Week. Tell us about Angelita, the 6-meter, which I sailed on during the '84 Olympics when Peter Uberoth brought her out of retirement and commissioned her as his flagship for the '84 Olympics.
Yeah, beautiful boat, continues to sail. I think this is probably a scene from the Round the Island race. We do the Round the Island race around Connecticut Island on the Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, we do 2 days of Windward Lewards. It's a great event every year, well attended, and this year no different.
There is no better race in the world than the Round Connecticut Island race.
It's a great.
Doesn't matter if you're on a dying northwesterly or if you got the sea breeze southerly. It's just a fantastic race.
Yeah, and then coming down the from the top, you got to pick your side, because if you get it wrong and the currents are against you, you'll probably be definitely last.
From the top, you got to pick your side. Julia's got some audio on her phone there.
I know.
Usually,
not supposed to.
Commodore, usually it's her boyfriend, one of her many boyfriends, calling on here. Let me have that thing, Julia.
No, I don't have on my.
Oh, you don't? Usually it's her boyfriend. You got to turn the audio off. We're getting an instant replay. So the annual regatta. Here's the IC-37s. Tell us about the latest on that class. It went through a couple different kind of related names, and now it's back to the IC for the International Cup 37s. Huge success, eh?
Very successful. We have, of course, 20 boats. The club authorized us to build 20 boats to replace the Swan 42s for the Invitational Cup, quite frankly. The Swan 42s, still a great boat, really good ORC racing, and every boat that went up for sale went either to Europe. 2 of them went to Ecuador. I think 1 went to Mexico. And we just didn't have enough in the area. So the club authorized us to develop a new boat. We worked with Mark Mills, great design, very similar actually to the Cape 31, although obviously bigger. And it's been very successful. We have 20 charter boats, and there's about 15 private boats have been sold, not only in the United States, but also in Europe.
Do we have any out here?
You did. Pacific Yankee was out there, Drew Freitas, but I think he sold the boat. He's not selling it.
He's down in San Diego, but the class is going from all accounts is going from strength to strength. And of course, you know, the Cape 31, our good friend, mutual friend, Andrew McIrvin, who's over at YCCS at Yacht Club Costa Smeralda right now, is telling us about how good that class has become. I heard from Andrew this morning too, and we've got a little news later in the show about what a couple of the yachts there at the Rolex Maxi Yacht Cup did in honor of Her Majesty the Queen. Very nice gesture. But back to the IC-37s and the annual regatta. What are the other big classes, Paul?
Well, I guess the other next big class is really the ORC. We had, I had to remember, I think we had 3 or 4 different ORC divisions. And then we had, of course, a perf division, but no other big one design division. I think the one design classes seem to be getting smaller. And so I think this is probably one of the biggest one design classes currently with we're getting anywhere from 20, 24 boats to as low as maybe 15 or 16 on any regatta. So it's still very active.
And a lot of top-notch sailors.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I know that Corey Sertle, who's your neighbor over there in Jamestown, and her family are doing very well. A lot of husband and wives, a lot of families, terrific class. Great.
Well,
racing.
you know what? One thing we did, Tom, when we put this together, we really wanted to put our stamp on gender diversity. So we required that at least 2 of the members be of the opposite gender. Now, in most cases, that means 2 females, but there are some all-female crews that have a couple guys on it. So that's really made it nice, and a lot of young people who probably had no opportunity to get onto a boat have gotten to sail with these boats. Because if you think about it, we have probably usually 8 or 9 per boat. So that's if 20 boats, that's 180 people right there.
Mm. Well, while we're on that, take a little divergence here. You've got, for the first time, New York has got you have a female, an esteemed new female rear Commodore who has been a longtime member of the club, former Commodore of Edgartown Yacht Club, and was the New York Yacht Club race committee chair for years. Tell us about.
Yeah. Claire Harrington, I think the word you used, esteemed, is correct. She's very, really plugged into a lot. She was Commodore at Edgartown. We were there last year for the cruise, and it was clear that she was the boss when we were there, even though she was no longer Commodore. She ran the race committee, did a phenomenal job. I worked with her closely when she was chair of the race committee. I was chair of the sailing committee. And then I was really very pleased when they decided to ask her to step up as rear Commodore, and she's been fantastic. Work with her a lot. We talk about things almost every day. I really depend upon her advice and counsel.
Well done again. And by all accounts, I don't know her well. I've met her before, but she's, I don't know her to have even broken bread, I don't think, over the now many years. But tell us some more about this summer's racing. Here's another shot from the annual regatta.
Yeah, so those are the big boats. The ORC fleet. There was, obviously like these are obviously the very big boats, the TP52s and that size. And then we went down from there. But yeah, it was, we had a good regatta. I think weather was great. We had 3 really good days of racing. And I think everyone really enjoyed that, and a nice dinner at the end on Sunday.
Well, I was going to play. There was an article about you, Commodore, in the Jamestown. What's the name of the paper over there?
Jamestown Press.
The Jamestown Press. From I don't know. Gosh, it was probably 8, 9, 10 years ago. It was a little dated. It had a picture of you. You haven't changed a bit in that time. I'm no joke. That could be good or bad, by the way. People say that to Julie and myself. We've always looked bad. You got a face for radio, Tom. That's what they tell you.
Well, both of us, yeah.
But Commodore, that article, I just wanted, maybe you can remember what you said. I was going to drag the quotes out, and then it might be a little wrong. But you emphasized it was an article by the press. You were not in the flags yet, I don't think, or maybe just becoming. And the article was about you building a team, putting together friends, having time on the water together as friends. And that's what the sport's really all about. Can you give us a reprise of that quote?
No, that's without trying to get into the quote, but that's exactly correct. Again, I think maybe because I started so late in sailing, when I got my first boat, which was a Ferris 33, I put together. Many of us hadn't sailed a lot, and we just started working together and became friends. And so that was in 1979 or so. And today, 30 plus years later, some of those same people sail with me. They don't, not every weekend, but we did the cruise together. We often do Block Island Race Week together. So to me, the racing has always been about the bonds of friendship that you develop. Less so, I mean, obviously you want to win, you want to do well, but you can win a lot, you can lose a lot. But I think those lifetime friends that you make is what's really critical about, and what's key about sailing that's unlike almost any other sport.
Well, and also we have these, what we call the FOSI. I told you in the tech check, Friends of Sailing Illustrated, and the people who are on here, mostly older, although we every now and then we have a lot of the Governor's Cup match racing kids on here because we cover that. Andy Rose and I is another New York Yacht Club member who you will know, who sailed for the Aussies. He was the first American to go abroad. In fact, one of my first jobs when I was a member of New York in '81 was to rewrite what we then called the Rose Rule, or the Rose Rule, which was to stop people from going sailing for other clubs. It's a whole different world. But it's mostly people who are on here because we all believe in that the spiritual heart of the sport are the clubs, right, Julia? That if we don't have strong, it doesn't have to be a fancy, prestigious club like New York or the Thames or the Squadron or St. Francis or tell me who, San Diego.
The Portage.
It can be a little club like the almost paper club. We now have a clubhouse, but a paper club, off the beach club. You've got them in Narragansett Bay, any number of clubs that don't have facilities, let alone a bar and a swimming pool. And of course, New York would never have a swimming pool because it's a sailing club. It's a yacht racing club. And I also believe, Commodore, that it's about yacht racing and not sailing. I wish we would stick to yacht racing, whether it's a sunfish, that's a yacht in this old Dutch sense of the word. What are your views on all that?
No, I agree. I think it really is about bringing people together. And more that I think the reward that I have had from being a flag officer, particularly now as Commodore, is getting to meet so many more of our members at the club and sharing stories of yachting. And I agree, that's what it's about. And I think we need to do more to get young people involved in single boats, but also on teams. I think team building is very critical, and it's something that's important, and it's something we do very well in sailing.
Could not agree more. And we say on here a lot, with again, our FOSI, the people all over the world watching this, will give us examples of how their clubs, how their national authorities, but their clubs are getting kids involved, not just on opties and not just in 420s, but on big boats, getting them sailing. Again, to mention Andy Rose, who for years on this 50-footer that I sail on with Andy, and he's recruited now 2 generations of kids onto that boat, helped them learn to sail, learn big boats, and all the things you learn about self-confidence and self-reliance and team building. Same thing that Commodore George Carmody did for many years, and any number of other New York Yacht Club members, the late, great Jim Kilroy. It's all about, as Julie Aaron says, the friendships. It's all about team building. It's all about having fun with your friends.
Right, and the memories.
And the memories. Gordon Smith is saying, I'm getting a new and much improved perspective of the New York Yacht Club from this interview. Interesting. And I think I saw that Batten Kennan, it says, One Swan 42 went to Charleston. He lives down in Charleston. That's what I sail on, hull number 4. Oh. Mutiny.
Mutiny, yes. Yep. Okay.
Commodore, we're back on the annual regatta. We talked about the big boats. I don't think we want to get into measurement and ratings and all that stuff now. It's a continuing controversy, but New York again leads the way, and hopefully you can help sort some of the things out between you and the Squadron and the Rourke and the Uncle and another great shot. This from Race Week. What's the difference between the annual regatta and Race Week?
Well, Race Week is it's really aimed more for the we have a spectrum of boats, but it's a 4-day event, and a lot of the boats that come to this are really the larger ORC boats. So that's a big thing, and we have a very big. Rolex sponsors it, and we have a really nice party on Saturday that Rolex holds for the group, and it's just a fantastic week of sailing. When it was first envisioned, it had kind of 3 components. It had a kind of a perf component, around the island component, and then kind of a one design component. But that's again, because of the size of the fleets decreasing, we don't see that anymore. So it's really just a 4-day event. IC-37s were sailing, a lot of ORC boats, and some perf boats.
And you've been doing a lot in women's racing. We talked in the tech check about how popular 2v2 team racing has become.
Yeah. This year was the second year we ran the women's 2v2. It was a great event. I know the first year I went down to give out the trophy to the winner, and we were talking, and turned out there were 3 boats that had a mother-daughter team on it. Now I don't know where else you can do that, and they had a great time. And again, this year was the same thing. It was just everyone loved sailing. These are sonars, sailing 2v2 and team racing.
And look at this group shot that Stu Struley. By the way, thanks to Stu for helping tee this up. Your wonderful PR director there at the club, longtime friend. This is the women's 2v2 group photo in front of Harbor Court.
It is. In fact, the other thing, which is hard to tell from this, but the race committee were all women also.
Really?
Yeah.
And why is 2v2 match racing so cool? We like it too, but tell our audience why it's so much better than 3v3 or 4v4.
Well, it's just, I think it more boat handling. It's just 2 boats against 2 boats, and it just seems to draw that attention. It's a lot easier to run because you're not talking about 3 teams against 3 teams. So it became. I think we were somewhat surprised, probably not totally surprised. It was well received, but it's going to be some of our. We'll have that on our calendar every year now.
And are the men doing 2v2 as well?
No, this is just the women's. The men, no, we don't have a separate men's. It was part of what we were trying to do is recognize that there are a lot of very talented women sailors who don't get the opportunity or the spotlight. And so we started this again in 2021 and again 2022. And then I think the lady will show us a slide about the women's championship event we have.
Coming up to that, and a couple of comments. Yeah, Steve Gruber is saying 2v2 is cool because there is no math. And of course, the deal is that you've got 4 boats and whoever finishes last loses. So there's really not a lot of benefit in finishing. You go up there to the finish line and you wait until you think you can get your 2 boats across the line without being DFL, and you've won the match. And it's the other thing I think, Commodore, about 2v2 is that it's easier to umpire. When you get 3 boats or 4 boats, you need more umpires. You get more multi-boat scenarios. We started doing umpiring for match racing in '88 at Long Beach Yacht Club Congressional Cup. We just never ever imagined that they'd be using it now virtually everywhere. The Olympic medal races, team races, big boat stuff, Sail GP, and so on. There's a question here from Stingray wanting to know about the Cup. No, I told the Commodore, I said, look, I'll talk to Terry Hutchinson about the Cup. Let's stick to other non-America's Cup matters today. We'll get Paul back on another time. But we really just wanted to talk and celebrate New York Yacht Club and the fantastic job that the club is and has been doing with their racing program, particularly this summer, and also get to the Resolute Cup here in a sec, and why that is going to be such a great event next week. You were saying, Commodore, the Women's Championship regattas.
Yeah, so this is the first year, and this will, again, it's an event that we're going to continue to run. It'll likely run every other year. And it's similar to the Resolute Cup in some regards, in that it's really the top women from yacht clubs who are invited to sail. And again, it was an idea that we had to say, look, we've got a lot of really great women sailors. Let's let them shine and get on the boats and sail. So we put this together, and again, it was a home run. Women really enjoyed the racing. I was again in the sonars. Great weekend, and again, we're going to continue with this event.
Good
Sorry,
pictures,
go ahead,
too.
Julia.
Good pictures too.
They are fabulous pictures. Again, thanks to Stuart Struley for sending along some really, really cool pictures. Alan Long, as I can say, as a former trustee of Ida Lewis, he's saying, is Ida Lewis affiliated with New York Yacht Club?
No, we're neighbors, but not affiliated.
No, it used to be that back in the day before Harbor Court, Ida Lewis was station number, whatever it was. It was a station in New York Yacht Club. It helped with the running the America's Cup prior to the loss in '83, or up through the loss in '83. Neighbors, and people thought, oh, New York's going to come here and buy Harbor Court, and it'll be the demise of Ida Lewis. Ida Lewis has gone from strength to strength.
It's a very strong yacht club. They do a lot of junior sailing. It's a great club.
And some offshore sailing. They've got the Ida Lewis distance race.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great club, and a lot of members of both. People are members of both of Ida Lou, as we used to call it. And of course, you're too young to remember when Alan Bond's wife read what she said about Ida Lewis. We don't need to repeat that on here.
I don't know what that was.
Julie, you would shake your finger.
I probably would.
You would shake your finger if I told the story about what she called Ida Lewis a shithouse on the rock.
Oh.
It was really cruel and wrong, and
she didn't really mean it.
I don't know what she meant, but it was a terrible thing to say, and we all of us lost respect for her. That was in the heated summer, Commodore, of 1983. One last shot here before we get to the Resolute Cup, and that is all the intra-club and inter-club team racing and match racing that you're doing. I know every time I go to the bar here at St. Francis, which Julia is not that often. It's not like we hang out over there, but
no.
But when we do go over there, Commodore, it seems like there's one team's either just come from New York, or all the teams are here to sail in the Morgan Cup. Or what's going on with these team races? What's the Morgan Cup? What's the Hinman? What's the Masters? What's going on?
Morgan, Hinman, and Grand Masters. It's our summer of team racing. It's in August. The three events are pretty much back to back, and the teams come from all over. St. Francis has been a big supporter for years. They're one of our reciprocal clubs and our partner clubs. Commodore Hinman, who really got the club started on team racing, is still very active in helping with judging and umpiring. Again, the teams come. They love sailing those three events, and it's just a wonderful summer of racing and with team racing.
And a lot of the top clubs, not just from the States, but you've also got a series. What's the remind me the name of the series between the Squadron?
New York. That's global team racing.
No, there's something else. There's the Founders Cup.
The Cornerstone.
The Cornerstone Cup. What's that?
So that's 4 clubs, and you're going to ask me which ones. It's New York, Thames, and I think it's the Squadron, and maybe St. Francis. I
think it is.
Someone's going to correct me. Yeah. Someone's going to need to correct me because I honestly don't remember.
No, I think that's right. Yeah. But the Fozy will correct us in the comments.
I know. Yeah.
Well, this has been another fabulous summer, and I hear great things about the cruise. And now let's get on to the Resolute Cup, which takes place next week, a standalone event in its own right, but it also the qualifier for the Invitational Cup.
Yeah, this was, so again, sort of a shout out to Commodore Elwell, who's conceived of us developing the Swan 42 and then followed up with the idea of creating the Invitational Cup. We ran the first one in 2009. I was involved with the technical committee part of that. And John Mendez, one of our members, was the event chair, and we pulled together for the first time. We just went out some invitations to some key clubs. They came. It was a phenomenal event. And we wanted to keep it international. So, we didn't want to have it just be a U.S. based thing. So that's why we had New York, and the only other U.S. team was St. Francis.
Now, this was the first, Commodore, excuse me, this was the first Invitational Cup.
In first Invitational
Right.
Cup, yeah, I want to get, because I think it's important to understand how the Resolute Cup fits in.
Exactly.
And after that 2009 Invitational Cup, we had a number of letters and phone calls from other U.S. clubs saying, hey, how do we get an invitation? And that then led to the following year, so 2010, we ran the first U.S. qualifying series, and we invited teams. There were 23 or 24 teams that came, and we sailed it in sonars and J-22s, and we extended an invitation to the top boat. And we did that for several years. It was always the top boats every other year. But what we found is that some of the teams wanted to come because it became, as you quoted, bragging rights for the club. It's a club-on-club event. Bragging rights as being the best keelboat champion. And so we opened it up a little bit and said, look, if you win and you don't want to come to the Invitational Cup, that's fine. We'll just go down the list of the second or third team. So that's the way we've been running it. But I think in general, most of the teams, if they win, do come to the Invitational Cup.
So the Invitational Cup is in the odd years. That'll be next year.
Mm-hmm.
This photo that I've got from Stuart is from 2021, but it's in the IC-37s. It started out in the Swan 42s and now is in their club members own boats, right?
Yeah. Well, the club owns 20 boats, and then there's some club members that own their own boat, but these are all owned by the club.
You own 20 IC-37s now?
We have 20 IC-37s.
Well, there's not very many clubs that can pull that off.
No, that was under Commodore Lotz. Was the Commodore at the time. I was finishing up my term as sailing committee chair, and then kept working on it. So I worked with Commodore Lotz and the executive committee and the trustees, put together a presentation. They thought it was an appropriate thing to do to keep the Invitational Cup going. And they authorized us to go out and get these boats. We bought 20 of them and we store them. And the members can charter them for the other events during the year.
Yeah, we've had Commodore Lotz on the show any number of times, talking mostly about IC-37s. And one of the I suppose, developments in that class is that this year the Canada's Cup was held in IC-37s.
Was the second year they held it?
Was it the second?
Second year they held it in the IC-37s.
So I hope to see some out here at some point, more than just Drew Freitas's boat that he's apparently now sold. But just to make it quite clear, the Invitational Cup, which will be next year again, that's the 7th edition next year. The historic International Yacht Club Challenge. The event will be run for the third time in the club's fleet of IC-37s, as shown since their debut in 2019. These boats will once again provide the ultimate platform for high-energy amateur sailing on a completely level platform. Bravo Zulu. That's an amazing thing. I didn't realize. I knew that that the club owned some of them and you were chartering them back. I didn't realize you had 20 for Pete's sake.
Yeah, and they're we equalize them, so you get a boat. They're all the same. We've also kept it very simple. No wind instruments on them. We're just GPS, boat speed, real simple.
And the class rules require that there be at least 2 of each gender on the boat.
Correct.
Right. So that's a nice feature. Should the America's Cup have a gender rule?
Yeah, I think we need to move there. Yes, but in fact, I think we could even we've actually been talking about perhaps increasing the number of opposite gender on the IC-37s to 3.
Nice. Yeah, Julia and I disagree. She's an old defender of women's rights, and she was the first female chair of the House Committee at St. Francis. She was among the very first female members that weren't spousal members or widow members at St. Francis, and she thinks that there shouldn't be any quotas or allocations.
I was an early first at lots of things, and then people would say the only reason you're here is because you're a woman. If you had any, and that's the only reason. Admit it. And No, that's not right.
Well,
So,
well, Julie, I would agree with you. I think eventually you don't need quotas, but I think there's a point here where we do, because otherwise there's a default, right? To just, in fact, when we designed the boat, we were very specific with Mark Mills as we were designing it, that it had to be that if it was an all-female crew, that they could handle the boat.
Right.
So we really tried to make it so that males and females sail together on the boats and compete together.
Well, we all agree with that,
yeah,
though, right?
We do. Yes.
And most of our foes, you will. We debate this question on and off, and whether the Cup should have a gender rule and require at least two of both genders on the boats. And of course, the ocean race has gone to that, and I think with success. Sail GP has gone to that, I think with success, at least one female on each boat, or at least one. There's a question here, Commodore, from Ed Worley. Are the New York Yacht Club IC-37s also used for junior programs?
So we don't have a junior program per se. Our junior program that we're affiliated with is really Sail Newport, and actually Ida Lewis has a junior program. So we don't currently use the boats for that, although we do have a capability of having juniors on the boat and not counting towards the weight or crew number.
And that's a great rule. You get some skinny little kids, young kids on there, and you can add hands without it putting rail meat, so to speak.
And give them experience.
Exactly. Great. So we need, as we said 20 minutes ago, we need to do much more of that within our beloved sport. Gordon Smith saying, I agree with Gordon's a Brit who lives in Denmark. I agree with the Commodore's perspective on preparing the ground for widest participation. Well said, Gordon. I think that's terrific. So that's the Invitational Cup. That's in the odd years. That's a photo. There, I'll back that off so you can see the IC-30. Beautiful shot. I don't know if that's a Nerney shot or a Daniel Forster shot or one of the other many superb photographers you have in Newport. And that will be next year. But the Resolute Cup qualifies you one club from the States, right? One club only. Now, does New York has a bye into the Invitational?
New York has a bye. Actually, we already have one U.S. club has already qualified, having won the Invitational Cup last time, and that's who is that?
San Diego, right?
San Diego, yeah. So San Diego is going to be there, no, I don't think it's swim. Is it San Diego? Notes here.
They won in 2018 anyway.
2018, yeah. No, San Diego won in 2018. So they'll be there, and then obviously we'll have and we'll pick another one. We'll have another. So this year we would likely end up with 3 U.S. teams.
John, is it Vinzi is saying that Southern Yacht Club.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I kept questioning that. It was Southern Yacht Club that won the last time. And actually, the interesting thing about them is they're going to, since they've already qualified, they're setting up a youth team for the Resolute Cup.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
excellent.
Thanks, John. Appreciate the.
And just another terrific club that's had a lot of success of late. That is Southern. And Guy, don't call me Guy Briere, who's a past Commodore down there, is often on the show, as are any number of other New York and other club members from around this country. Now, Commodore, I want to play this video. It's from a few years ago, 2015, and it talks a little bit about the history of both of these events and your history in both of the events. Have a look. Roll tape.
So what does it mean to you to represent the New York Yacht Club, and what did you have to do to gain that honor?
Yeah, well, it means a lot to represent New York Yacht Club and also the United States of America, because that's part of our team. We put a team together last winter to try to compete for this. As a little bit of background, I've been involved with the event since '09, put together the first technical committee and ran that for the first 2 events, and then in 13 I was the event chair. And that year we had a pretty good season, and the crew started talking about wanting to represent the club. And I said, well, we can't do it in 13 because I'm running it, but in 15 we can try. So we put a team together, and what I thought was really important is we put the team together so it was all New York Yacht Club members except for the 2 non that were allowed. So if we did qualify, it was the same team was going to be racing rather than having to reconstitute the team. The way we're set up with the qualifying series for New York is it's the annual regatta, which is 3 days, and then 4 days at the Nationals in July. And if you qualify with your usual team, then you have to kick some guys off, guys or girls, and then you have to put New York Yacht Club members on. So what I did is in 14, sort of in the winter, we put some new people on the boat through New York Yacht Club members. Everyone committed to the season, and our first regatta was Key West. And to me, what was important there was the dynamics of the people on the boat as well as off the boat. Did they enjoy being together? Did they work well together? And they did. And then we just started working on the mechanics of trying to get better and better through the series of races. So the annual regatta we won. Well, we actually tied for first with Apparition, which was the other boat competing. And then the Nationals was the final qualifying series. And it really came down to the last race that we did to win the event and qualify for New York.
Well, so you're used to a bit of pressure. Are you feeling more pressure by being the home club? And just talk to us about the support and scrutiny you're under because you represent the home club and all its prestige that goes with it.
Yeah, I don't know that I feel more pressure. I think the pressure into the Nationals was really intense, just the qualification. And so what I've tried to do here is just relax a little bit and enjoy it. I know this is a phenomenal event. It is, meeting friends that I've met over the years, other teams from around the world being involved with the event. And but I do feel pressure. I want to represent the New York well. Commodore Potts said, make sure you do well. And so we're going to do our best.
And you did do well,
win the cup back.
Commodore.
We did, we got second. We almost won it. Royal Thames beat us in the last race, the last day.
A common theme of what you've discussed with us, with Julie and myself here, but also what you've been talking about in that video from 7 years ago, team building, friendship, clubs within the club, getting club members all together. Talk some more, please, about that, sir.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's, we met so many people over the years from Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Italy, England, and you see them every 2 years, and it's like they're friends, and they are friends, and the memories that you create, not only with them but also with your team. Some of the people that you see in this video are still sailing with me, and we just have some phenomenal memories of racing together, learning together. Win or lose, we come off the water and we have a good time together. And I think that's always, to me, has been the important thing. I do not want somebody who's a rock star on the boat who wants to just step off the boat at the end of the day and go his way or her way. I want to make sure that we have a team that's very cohesive, and that's always been important to me.
Julie, I just can only say bravo, Zulu.
Absolutely.
That's the whole deal. And
Yeah.
again, what the Fozy, what our friends on here keep saying, and I hope that message gets through to clubs across the world. I'm sure it does. I think most clubs around the world do feel that way.
Yeah, I think that
Push your mic up a bit, please.
there
you go.
the premier yacht races don't always get that chance.
Yeah, but the other great thing of what New York is doing is by having a Corinthian event.
Yeah.
And it's amateur only in the sense of what World Sailing defines as a non-professional. It really means non-paid professional.
Yeah.
I wrote that code along with
No,
six
it's
or seven
true.
other people, the original draft of that code, and man, did we struggle with that. But
I'm still good friends with the people I started sailing with. So
yeah, and the fact that this event is for non-professionals
yes,
is another right, Commodore. That's another feature that is so popular.
It's all Corinthian sailing, all amateur sailing. If I might, one quick point. Will Gamble was on my boat during the Invitation Cup and sailed with me. He's now chairman of the Young Members Committee, and he called me one day and he said, "Hey, I have an idea." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "We know there are a number of young members from the Royal Thames, Royal Yacht Squadron, St. Francis, our clubs that we're affiliated with, that work in New York. They live here. And they don't belong to New York, but we'd like to invite them to our young members get-togethers." And I said, "Absolutely." He said, "The reason I thought about that is my experience during the Invitational Cup, meeting all these teams from around the world, and that ability to have that connection for the rest of our lives."
good idea.
And those senior members are invited too.
Yeah.
To those what is it? Once a month on Tuesdays or something?
Well, the senior members go there all the time.
Well, no, I know, but to the junior members night at the city club.
It's Thursday night.
Well, it's Thursday nights, first Thursday of the month,
Thursday.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
the after party is usually even more fun.
Yes.
Friendship, and here it is again. When teammates are mates, they are not only, Julie Aarons is saying, Julie in Cleveland, who's very close with Grant Dalton, by the way, they are not only have more fun, they are more successful. Could
Yep.
not agree more.
Yes.
David Morris, Richard Morris is saying, our sport is all about friendships and team building, and yes, winning helps.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Let's talk about, sir, if we can, the Resolute Cup now. There you have 23 entries, as I understand it. Is that right?
Right.
23 from USA Yacht Clubs for this event coming up next week. Here
Correct.
are those clubs: American, Austin, Carolina, Chicago, Corinthian, Eastern, Fort Worth, Houston, Lakewood, also down in Texas, Larchmont, Muskegon Yacht Club in my home state. It's not a club you'd normally think of as a prestigious club in Michigan, but it certainly has got a lot of yacht racing and has for years and years over there on the west side of the Lower Peninsula. Muskegon Yacht Club, and then, of course, New York, Newport Harbor, Norotan, Pensacola, San Diego, Seattle, Shelter Island, which is a great club on the North Shore of Long Island, Southern Yacht Club down in Nolens, Stamford Yacht Club, St. Francis, Storm Trysil, and our sister club across the bay here, the San Francisco Yacht Club. You want to comment on who you think the favorite is this year?
I think it's going to be, every year the competition is getting better and better. I think San Diego is bringing back 3 to 4 sailors from the 2018 winning team. Southern, I said, I actually qualified already, so they're sending a young team. I think Shelter Island is one to look after, see how they do. They have a 2-time Olympian, Amanda Clark, who's their skipper. Lakewood Yacht Club, which is a new one that's coming. Actually, has Danny Pletz, who was the winner in 2012 for Larchmont, actually. So it's hard to pick a winner. I think it's going to be they're going to be battling this out probably to the last race.
You know that Lakewood Yacht Club was a significant supporter of the America 2 Challenge of our team from 85, 6, and 7.
Right. Yeah,
They were quite. We had 30 some odd clubs around the country, but we had a lot of support from clubs for that challenge. Talk to us, please, about these new boats, because you've just taken the RS-21s on board.
Yeah. Now, I haven't sailed one yet. Hope to get on one. So what we've tried to do, except for the 1 year, we did have just the sonar. I think it was 2018. Each time we've tried to have two boats, so that it really requires a depth of experience in sailing, not just sonars, not just J70s or J20s, in this case the RS-21s. And so we'll split the fleet. So the fleet will have equal opportunity to be on the RS-21s and the sonars, and then that'll be the first 2 days. And then out of that, then we'll pick the gold and silver fleets that'll go on to for the last 2 days. And the top boat, of course, of the gold fleet will then get an invitation to the Invitational Cup. And the RS-21 is a new boat. We had hoped to get them last year or the year before. Of course, COVID hit, so we didn't have them available. But we're really excited about their being a partner this year with us.
And what's the medal races will be held in which boat?
In the RS-21.
In the RS-21s, cool.
Yeah, and then the other in the sonars.
Now this shot, of course, that's an RS-21. I had the 2 shots of the boats that Stu sent me, and we have John Emmett on here and any number of other Brits, Andrew McIrvin, Andrew Pindar, who are quite fond of RS yachts and the job they're doing for the sport, particularly in the UK, but also here, increasingly here in the States. Now these are the sonars,
right?
From, I guess this is a shot from 2018, and I've got a couple quotes out of the recent release that Stuart wrote for the club. While the boats are roughly the same size, that is the sonars and the RS-21s, they require different skill sets, which will reward teams of versatile sailors. Quote, transitioning between the sonar and the RS-21 can be a challenge since their handling characteristics are quite different, as are downwind tactics and strategy with a sprit boat compared to a S-sail, a spinnaker pole. says Peter Vasella, Julia,
Aha.
of the St. Francis Yacht Club team. Quote, the heavy sonar with a bigger keel is slow to accelerate but carries momentum, while the RS-21 with smaller, high aspect foils accelerates faster but doesn't carry momentum. Starting techniques have to be tailored to each boat. The teams can feel comfortable in both boats and mentally switch gears will probably, the teams that can feel comfortable in both boats and mentally switch gears will probably be up at the top in the medal races and the final standings. That's, again, Peter Vasella there at the left, who's a veteran OD competitor, decades of experience, Star Laser Etchel's VX1, and it's his second time competing in the Resolute Cup. Quote, participating, I love this quote, participating in the prestigious Resolute Cup is an opportunity to compete and test your skills against other amateur sailors from around the country, unquote. And he goes on to say, being organized by the New York Yacht Club assures it will be fair and well run.
Terrific.
Commodore, bravo Zulu from
Thank you.
you talk about esteemed sailors, Peter Vasella, who we, of course, know here from St. Francis, St. Fancy, as we call it, here in San Francisco. Here's the 20, I thought this was the 2018. Has there been a, was there a 20? I thought that was the 2018 results, San Diego, Austin, Eastern, but maybe I've got, when did Southern win?
I have, no, essentially I have 2018 San Diego. Oh, you know what? No, here's what the difference is. San Diego did one in 2018 in the Resolute Cup. What we're talking about with,
yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Southern won the Invitational Cup
in 2021.
21, 20, yeah.
Last
exactly.
year. Okay, got it. Okay,
Yeah,
that
so
makes
they have so they're obviously invited back.
it's the COVID has done a lot to our
I know.
to our brains and our memories.
Yes.
And that whole period, we can't. Tom Pace, who's the Commodore of Pensacola Yacht Club, says, I've sailed the RS-21, and it's a great boat, very similar to the Viper 640, which is their club boat now down in the GYA, as you probably know, Commodore, the Gulf Yachting Association. The guys from Southern will be good on that boat. We from Pensacola are looking forward to the chance to compete in this year's event.
Yeah.
Gordon Smith over in Denmark saying, with respect to RS boats, does the New York Yacht Club have a perspective or a program to get less able-bodied participants on the water, Commodore?
So the club doesn't, but we support Sail to Prevail that Paul Callahan runs, and that's run out of Sail Newport.
Yeah, Paul's another Fozy, as we call him, Friends of Sailing Illustrated.
He's a great guy.
And his kids are terrific sailors.
Terrific sailors. Yeah, they just started at Harvard. Both of them were at Harvard.
Yeah, one was #1 in his class at prep school, and one was #3. Bright kids, good sailors, very articulate.
Yeah.
And I saw them at the, what was it, Julia, the Rose Cup. The kids were there and did quite well. And we'll see them at the Governor's Cup sooner or later. Yeah, they're just starting. So back to the Resolute Cup, more from the release. There is no better indication of the regard with which clubs hold this event than the quality of the sailors lining up to compete. While all are certified amateur sailors, as determined by World Sailing, the sport's international governing body, there is a strong contingent of sailing talent, including regional and national champions, collegiate All-Americans, and former Olympic sailors. It's from Stu's, one of his most recent press releases. Quote, I'm talking about Amanda Clark here. Our club, this is Amanda's club, Shelter Island Yacht Club. Our club has a growing talent pool. I was very honored when the team campaigning for the Resolute Cup asked me to join, says Shelter Island Yacht Club skipper Amanda Clark there at the left, a two-time Olympic sailor in the women's 470. Quote, my husband and I now run a water filtration and water testing business, so I have less time to sail or coach. I had to wait till I knew what my summer and fall was going to look like before I could commit. Well, that's what Corinthian sailing is and should be about. Shelter Island Yacht Club, which is, a great club, a lot of good sailors from there, but it's not, we don't think about it, Commodore, as one of the top, very top clubs, perhaps competitively in the country, notwithstanding, again, a lot of good sailors from there. Shelter Island Yacht Club may look like the epitome of a quaint, family-focused club from the outside, all of which it is, but beneath the weathered wooden shingle exterior is a serious competitive fire. Quote, our team has solid experience sailing in sonars, as our club has A few we use for match racing and team racing. Says Clark, while we have the 2 RS-21s at the club on loan, we are trying to maximize our time training. So far, we have found the boat to be sporty and fun to sail. We've been working on downwind mode choice and teamwork around the course. What a great quote from a terrific sailor.
Yes.
Well, our Vice Commodore, Jay Cross, is a member of
Shelter Island.
Shelter Island. Talks very highly of their skill set. So, I think that's going to be a very competitive team.
I had to date myself, but Jay and I raced 470s against each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's Canadian, of course, from Toronto, from Royal Canadian Yacht Club.
He's a very good sailor.
He is a terrific sailor and has been a very successful guy in business, as well as you know. Julie Ahrens, it would be wonderful if there were workshops and other opportunities for lake sailors to learn to participate in and get ocean racing. You got lots of ocean racing, Julie. You've got both Mackinacs, you got the Cross Lake Erie, you got every now and then the Trans Superior race. You got a lot of that's ocean racing. Okay, it's lake sailing because it's fresh water. But Commodore, another photo here after those great quotes from Amanda Clark. This is another 2021 photo. I guess this is when we're both thinking now of Southern Yacht Club because they won in 2021.
Yeah, right.
And these are again in the IC37s, the Rolex New York Yacht Club Invitational Cup. And another question is from somebody, Stingray, who's up in Seattle, a retired Boeing engineer of considerable repute. And he's asking, Julia, his question was, how long has Rolex, right?
Yes.
Was that his question?
Yeah.
How long Commodore has Rolex been involved with New York Yacht Club?
It's been 60 years.
Terrific.
60.
Yeah, they've been a big supporter of the club.
That alone is Bravo Zulu for what Rolex does and continues to do for your club and St. Francis and a number of other clubs around the world.
Big supporter of sailing. We really cherish their participation and their support.
Yes,
Indeed.
they've been wonderful.
Okay, Commodore, can you stay for a couple more minutes?
Sure.
And then if anyone else has a question, Alan Long, who's on the lakes, is saying, yeah, but Tom, we don't have tides or significant current. Yeah, but I grew up on a pond not even the size of Newport Harbor, and you quickly learn about currents, to say nothing of the currents out here in the bay, but you quickly learn about currents and tides, and it's just one more challenge. It's just one more interesting thing to learn about. So come on, Alan, it's not that hard. And you can learn. You just have to spend the time and energy and get somebody who knows the local power up and put the boat down. That's J. Frederick Bland. I think that's who that is. Commodore, we've got a submission. I have a Fozy, by now a friend, called Ed Worley, who's here from California. I think I mentioned the tech check. He sailed with Eagle, with Newport Harbor Yacht Club's challenge, and helped with that challenge. He volunteered as a kid back in the 80s, and he prepares from time to time a trivia question. It's more than a trivia question for us. And he prepared this one today in honor, sir, of you. He said, since you got the New York Commodore on, and of course you'll know the answer, Julia will know the answer, and probably a number of others, but what is this building and how is it related to the America's Cup? Ed Worley's question of the week on America's Cup history. And I don't know if we wait here. There's still some comments coming in. Current is not rocket scientist, it's brain surgery. Steve Gruber. Alan Long, no argument. He's not but didn't get it till I sailed on the East Coast. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I didn't get it either. Hell, Alan, when I went from sailing on this little pond northwest of Ann Arbor to going and sailing in the Great Lakes, that was a big deal where you have wind and waves, and that was intimidating. And of course, you get to Newport, Rhode Island, you quickly learn about the currents.
Yes.
Yeah. Come out to Block Island Race Week.
Yeah.
I know.
Or come race here in San Francisco Bay.
Yes.
On a strong tide. So what's the answer here to this trivia question? What is this building and how is it related to the America's Cup? Steve Gruber saying Mercury Bay. No. Gordon Smith saying starting line umpire's hut. No. That's okay. We do have some folks on here with a sense of humor. Anybody else have a guess that's not a New York member? If you're a New York member, put it on. Peter Taylor, thanks Peter for helping today. He's our friend in New York who helped. I did a tech check because we don't often use Zoom, Commodore, but I got Peter on and he pretended to be you today. Did a good job. Replying to Steve Gruber, no, it requires a nephrologist. Okay, what's the answer? Does anyone know? I'm surprised. There's New York members on here will obviously know. Commodore, tell us the answer.
Well, that is our original clubhouse, built in 1845. And I think you're going to show where it was, but it was originally it was John Cox Stevens' property in Elysian Fields in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is now the Stevens Institute.
Mm. Yeah,
and
the
original clubhouse.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so all right, and then so it was operated as it says here officially until well, it was a Gothic Revival building. Actually, most people will say when they see it, that awning, I've actually never seen a picture of that awning on it, but it looks a lot like a chapel, but it was the original clubhouse in 1845.
And where is it today?
So
let's see if anybody knows today where it is. I'll show the picture.
There it is.
There it is. Julie, you know where that is?
Only because I saw it before.
Is that where the first AC deed was signed? No, Gordon Smith, I don't think so. I think the deed was signed probably
Before that.
at one of the downtown Manhattan big fancy clubs before New York, because New York didn't have 44th Street until what, 1900?
Yeah, around 1900, 1901.
Yeah, 01. That clubhouse, which was the original clubhouse, which served 23 years in Hoboken, 45 as Station 10. New York had a series of stations, they called them, including one of which was Ida Lewis, in various cities, towns, ports up and down Long Island Sound and the eastern seaboard. And Station 10 in Glen Cove, which is on the North Shore of Long Island. And then for 50 years, it was on exhibit at Mystic Seaport. And it made its final voyage in 99, 11 years after New York bought Harbor Court, where it stands today as an important artifact and reminder of the club's origins. And I do have a photo I found online. I had a hell of a time finding a decent photo that could also show you where that is. And if you look in the upper left corner in the trees, and it's used for skippers meetings and for some social events. It's a terrific venue, isn't it, Commodore?
Yeah, it's it really is beautiful. And of course, as a historic, we just actually put a plaque outside the Station 10 original clubhouse, basically describing what you had on the screen there, because we've had so many people come in and they say, well, oh, that's a beautiful little chapel there. And so we want to make sure people know that's our original clubhouse. It was actually barged from Mystic to Harbor Court, as you said. And it was when Commodore Dewey and Dewey Eisdale and Charlie Dano were involved.
Charlie Dano, who, of course, is another longtime late great friend, but he was another terrific supporter of America too. Big boat sailor, maxi sailor. Gordon Smith is saying Hoboken, as in death of a salesman. Yes, yes, Gordon. Alan Long saying yes, that's where New York Yacht Club got its beginnings, in Hoboken. Right. Of course, in those days, the Cup was raced in New York Harbor and South Harbor and out and around. So it was not unusual. I mean, that was not an unusual place to have a clubhouse. Commodore, thank you for staying for all that. Thank you for the history, for the thoughts, and congratulations on everything the club is achieving and continues to achieve.
Well, Tom, thank you very much. I appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you and talk a little bit about the New York Yacht Club. And to all my friends out there, thanks for listening, and hope to see you on the water soon.
Thanks, Commodore, and have a great regatta next week. By the way, you have live coverage.
Yep.
On what Friday, Saturday?
Friday, Saturday. Yeah, we'll be tracking every day, but then live coverage on Friday, Saturday.
So we'll tune in. It'll be on Facebook or YouTube or both?
Yes, correct.
Thanks, everybody, saying thank you, Paul. Thank you, Commodore. Very, very much indeed. We'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao. Ciao for now. The esteemed Commodore of New York Yacht Club, current Commodore, he's in his first of what is normally a 2-year term, and he was live via Zoom, not from the clubhouse there, not from Harbor Court, live via Zoom from his home. Has a winter home down in Stuart, Florida, I believe it is, but he's got a place over in Jamestown, which a lot of Newporters and New York Yacht Club types have homes over in Jamestown. It's a little less hustle bustle and a quieter, smaller community. Very, very nice. On Connecticut Island, which is in the middle of Narragansett Bay, the East Passage is the water between Connecticut Island, Jamestown, and Newport, and the West Passage is on the backside. And of course, that race we talked about around Connecticut Island is a terrific race. Julia.
One of the things I was thinking about, and didn't quite have a chance to ask him, but when one decides to become Commodore, that's a 10-year commitment.
At least.
At least.
I mean, first of all, you are doing good work for the club for any number of years. I think Paul was chairman of the race committee, or he's chairman of the sailing committee, I guess, which is, very prestigious.
Right.
And a lot of work.
Yes.
And as is the race committee, as you know, as is the house committee.
Right.
And so you any number of times, and a number of years rather, doing a lot of work in the committee level, and then you're probably on the board at some point, either as an elected director or as by virtue of your position you're holding as a committee chair. Some committee chairs automatically are members of the board, and then it's a 6-year term. Two as rear, 2 as vice, and 2 as Commodore. And there's no chairman of the board like there is here at St. Francis. Yeah. Commodore is also chairman of the board, and he's the queen and king, as well as the president and the chief executive. They have a general manager at both clubhouses who are very, very good. Yeah. But it's a big operation.
It is
a lot of hours on the water. The difference between there and here, though, is that they have a winter, so they're not really from October until April,
that's
May.
true. Yeah.
There's some frostbiting at clubs on Long Island Sound, so they have an off season, unlike St. Francis and the warm weather clubs, San Diego, Newport Harbor.
Yeah.
So, Alan Long saying, "Thank you, Commodore." He still wants that reciprocity. The problem for New York with reciprocity is like St. Francis, like any of the big city clubs, Royal Thames, the clubs in Sydney, Royal New Zealand, they get overrun with visitors, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry comes in and says, "Oh, I know Julia Zabetakis. Can I come in and have a look at the club or see the model room?" And they're overrun by people who A, maybe have a legitimate interest, but B, a lot of people who are just touroids, as we used to say in Michigan. Yeah. It's a mixture between two words, tourist and another word. Thank you all. Thank you, Commodore. That was a lot of fun.
What's impressive about him is he really does know what's going on at the club and in all areas and in great depth. And our poor Commodore has 4 years in preparation, but it doesn't.
Well, it cuts both ways, because it used to be that you were the Commodores back in the America's Cup. They were 3-year terms.
Yeah.
3-year terms. So you would serve 9 years in the flags. And why did you do that? So that because the cup was more or less on a 3-year basis. And so a Commodore would get a cup. Yeah. And that was a long slog.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, it was a different era too. So.
But I also admire them for taking that commitment, because it really is a commitment. But the success of it shows in him, because he really does know.
Well, he's a doctor. He's a humanist too, and his I think it really comes through.
Absolutely,
he's relaxed and wonderful. Gordon Smith. There's a lot of reciprocity between the Royal Yacht Clubs across largest clubs and cities of the world. Yeah, there's all sorts of other university clubs and all sorts of reciprocity. Thank you, Commodore Zabetakis. Hope to get you on the show again sometime soon, which brings us to this day in history. And thanks again, Ed Worley, for that little historical question. Do you know what happened, Julia, on this day in history, 1940? This is how we started the show, because I'd done the tech check with Paul, with Commodore, and then we got to this point, and I forgot to reset the slides, so this is why you saw this at the start of the show. Apologies. Do you know what happened on this day in history? Here's your first clue.
Oh, I know who that is.
Who is it?
Grace Hopper.
Well done. And you did not see this.
No.
She is Admiral, or was Admiral Grace Hopper.
Yes.
United States Navy, 1906 to 1922. And if you didn't know that, what did she do, or why is this day famous? the 9th of September. There's another clue. What did she do?
I know what she was doing, and she was in charge of all the high tech stuff for the government.
Yeah, the Manhattan Project.
Yeah.
One of the first programmers of the Harvard Mark I and then later the Mark II computer, which was used in the war effort and the the nuclear bomb effort from 1944. Hopper went on to invent the first compiler. She's called Grandma COBOL, for those of you who are computer nerds, for a universal computer programming language. She is also credited with coining the phrase debugging after removing a moth with tweezers. I had no idea. From a relay and taping it to the log.
How lovely.
Thus, the computer wasn't working. She went into it, found the moth blocking the relay.
I didn't know that either.
And that's where the expression bugging, it was apparently on this day that she found that moth.
I had
September
the
9th.
pleasure of working with her.
You did?
Because she was I was doing executive recruiting, and she was a great resource of the kind of mind I was looking for. And she and I had a great time. She answered the phone when he called, and, she was great.
Well, and she took some pretty high-level jobs after doing this work for the government,
Yes.
I think for Dell or somebody. But here's another interesting slide. You know who those folks are?
I know who
That's
Reagan is.
1983. Of course, President Reagan.
Mhm.
She was promoted to Commodore. So you see, there's a nautical. That used to be. In fact, I think I think it was for a while, and then they've upped it as a rank in our Navy, and that is the SecNav, the Secretary of the Navy on the right, whose name is not Tom Eamon, but John Lehman.
Mhm.
He promoted Captain Grace Hopper to the rank of Commodore in a ceremony at the White House. President Ronald Reagan is at the left. And you ask me now, well, why is this significant on this day in history? Because, well, she was a Commodore before she became an admiral.
Yeah.
But this guy here, SecNav, is automatically under the New York Yacht Club rules. The President of the United States, where is this thing? President of the United States. Oops, I'm showing it in the wrong place. That's the New York Yacht Club annual book. The President of the United States and various other people, including the Secretary of the Navy, are automatic honorary members of the club. And more than once, I kid you not, more than once, Julia, his office, and as a member, he would stay at the club in New York, and his office would book a room
Yeah.
and then cancel it, or I would book a room and then cancel it, or vice versa. And more than once, we got our reservations followed up, and finally we met in the bar one night, and we had just a, oh, you're John Lehman. Oh, you're Tom Eamon.
Oh,
And
good. I've never heard that story.
Yeah,
either.
well, it was funny. We laughed, and he was very gracious. He finally, in fact, after it happened, I don't even think he called. We met in the bar one time, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, I have a magnetic ring memory card somewhere in the garage." Yep, started with punch cards. There's the moth. Okay, so much for that historic event, which took place on this day in history, 9 September 1945, the first bug in a computer program.
That's a lovely story.
Discovered by the late, great Admiral Grace Hopper, whom Julia knew. And that's pretty well it for 551. But I do want to go back to Her Majesty the Queen. We're an hour and 25 minutes in. But just as a program note, next Tuesday, we're delighted to have with us Staff Commodore Ken Glidewell will be our guest, live via, I guess, Skype, rather than coming in studio. Ken here lives in San Francisco, down in the South Bay. He was, Commodore Julia in the COVID year?
Oh, 2020, you can't forget it.
Poor guy. But he continues to work hard for the club and as a past Commodore. We call them Staff Commodores here on the West Coast, or at least in the Southwest. Seattle calls them past Commodores, but from San Francisco down, Staff Commodores. So he's Commodore in 2020, and he sails canards and other classes. He will be our guest Tuesday to talk about the Rolex Big Boat Series, which is next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday,
Correct.
and Sunday.
And Sunday.
Ken Glidewell, delighted to have him. Let's finally get to John Emmett's report, Coach's Corner with John Emmett, and he's reporting in again today, as he did on Tuesday from, you know where that is? Remember? Den Haag, The Hague, but
yes.
he's actually not in Den Haag, which is where the test event for next year's World Sailing Championships will take place. But out on the beach in what's called Scheveningen, and that's the Scheveningen Pier. That's not as much fun to say as that lighthouse up by Ramsweeney.
Kurhaus.
But the Kurhaus is fun to say. That's that big building in the background, which was built in the 1880s, if I remember 1884, by the German architects Johann Friedrich Henkelhoff and Friedrich Ebert. It was originally a concert hall and hotel. It burned, yada, yada, in the late 1880s. And then it had some famous paint, a beautiful building, but it has recently been restored. And the Rolling Stones and various other groups have played there and so on and so forth. But I want to go visit that beautiful building, 1880s in Scheveningen.
Yes.
Here's John's report.
Hi Tom, Julia and all the Fozy here in Scheveningen, probably going to say that wrong, getting ready for the test event. And I just have to say it is so important to do the specific venue analysis because every venue is different. There's no point training at a similar venue. You need to train at the exact same venue. So you can see the clouds here. We're training in September. The Worlds will be in August, but it's still very important because the conditions could be anything. And of course, the currents are one of the big things with this venue, which will be a surprise to a lot of people. But enough with the sailing. I think the big news all around the world was the recent death of Elizabeth II, who's been the Queen for all my life. And regardless of what you think of the monarchy, I think you need to remember it's a deeply personal thing. Somebody's lost their mum, their grandmum, or even their great-grandmum, and it's the end of an era. I mean, 70 years reign, it's really hard to know what to say, and I think it's a day we all remember. I obviously realised things were looking likely to yesterday when it actually happened, and I stopped halfway cycling home because that's when the news broke. So I think it's another one of those things I will remember. So we're here getting ready to go sailing. It's a big harbour, lots of current outside, so we will all sail out together. It looks like most of the sailors are ready, so it's time for me to go, and I'll catch you later on the show.
Nice.
Yeah, another nice report by John Emmett. What do you think, Julia?
Yes.
He doesn't sound like a royalist, by the way.
No, but a traditionalist.
He does not sound like a royalist.
I don't. Well, that's all right.
I mean, that's okay, yeah.
He doesn't have to be.
Thank you, John Emmett. Nice report, as always. Now, he sent around another video another video just to show you what the conditions are like. He's there coaching the developing nations. He's there on behalf, I guess, of World Sailing. The Youth Trust or something is paying to get him there, and he's helping all the teams who don't otherwise have a coach. Good man, John Emmett. Good man. Nice that he's doing that. Of course, our segment from John Emmett Sailing, Get to the Front of the Fleet. Back to Her Majesty to wrap the show up. I just want to do a couple more things to lighten it up a little bit. First of all, to hear from Sir Ben Ainslie, who's arguably the best known, and if not the best sailor in the UK these days. Certainly the best known, the most successful Olympian ever from that country. And he had a statement.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say a few words really on behalf of the British team and the other teams and the league on the sad news of the passing of Queen Elizabeth. You know, it's obviously a very sad day that everyone hoped would never happen, but inevitably had to at some point. So Queen inspired so many people, not just in Britain, but around the Commonwealth and the world. It was a wonderful moment. Earlier today, we had 3 minutes of silence with the Commonwealth teams, and I just really wanted to thank those teams for joining us in that moment of remembrance. I think looking at all of the response to what's happened in the last 24 hours, I think there were some incredible attributes that were made of the Queen, or what she stood for, you know, such as devotion, service, humility, respect, humor, enjoyment, and perseverance. And I think that's how many people around the world will remember her, and certainly in this world that we're currently living in, I think that perspective is one of the things that the Queen certainly stood for, and I'm sure the rest of us could certainly gain something from following that as well. But, you know, in the days and weeks to come, we would all hope that actually the sorrow turns to celebration of just an incredible life, you know, perhaps the most incredible life that's ever been lived.
Yeah, I think, well said, Ben. Thank you very much. I think you would agree, right, Julie?
Yes.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing person.
You can think about what's happened in her life, and it's just, you know, unbelievable.
Never complain and never explain. Just the opposite of me.
I know.
Just the opposite. Well done, Ben. Very, very nicely done. And also, just a quick note, as you know, the Maxi Yacht Rolex Cup is going on at YCCS. I heard from Andrew McIrvin this morning when I posted this picture on my Facebook page. One of you sent this to me. Thank you. One of the Fozy, I've forgotten now whom. And then Andrew texted me and he said, yes, both Jethu and North Star pulled out of the race today. The races at Yacht Club Costa Small, the Maxi races. They pulled out for respect after 96 seconds. They started the race and then pulled out and went to attention, and hence this photo, a very nice gesture. I persuaded, that is Andrew McIrvin, he persuaded YCCS to fly their Burgee at half-mast, and he will send pictures. Well done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we'll lighten it up. Yeah, 22 people on that yacht Stingray sang.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so just to lighten it up a little bit, there have been a couple of, there's a lot of remembrance, and we all, being a sailing family and all, and a huge respect, I think she's largely held. She is within which she is held all around the world. She also had a sense of humor, and this is just some outtakes from this famous, during her Jubilee, just not too long ago. Have a look at this.
Yes.
You would like a marmalade sandwich? I always keep one for emergencies.
So do I. I keep mine in here.
Oh.
For later.
I don't think this is going to work.
This was not too long ago either.
There is a knife. What? There is a knife. I know there is.
Camilla doesn't know what to do. The Queen Consort.
Clothes-wise, does it look all right with the background?
Yes, it does.
I mean, Johnny, like, it'd be awful if you said no, because I don't know something else.
You said no, I don't have anything else to change into. Not too long ago, 2021. Are you supposed to be looking as if you're enjoying yourself, she asked? Bojo says, yes, definitely. We have been enjoying ourselves in spite of appearances.
Of all the places in which Sir David Attenborough has filmed and of all the species he has studied.
Shall I go and look?
Yes, do.
Even he will admit his 90 minutes with the Queen in the garden of Buckingham Palace was something quite different. From chatting about the trees the Queen planted for her children to joking about the noise of the helicopters in the skies of London.
Sounds like President Trump.
Sounds like President Trump.
I was going to say, a sundial neatly planted in the shade.
Isn't it good? Yes. Had we thought of that? That it was planted in the shade. It wasn't in the shade originally, I'm sure.
Message?
I don't get this one. So one of you who knows Harry and Invictus, this is from Lotus, the First Lady of the United States.
Hey, Prince Harry, remember when you told us to bring it at the Invictus Games?
Careful what you wish for.
Boom.
Oh, really? Please.
Boom.
Canada's Justin Trudeau reminded her that he was the country's 12th Prime Minister to serve during her reign.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister of Canada, for making me feel so old.
This was the best. Remember this, 2012 Olympics, her entrance?
Good evening, Mr. Bond.
Good evening.
Your Majesty.
The film, Happy and Glorious, specially made for the ceremony by the BBC, it does suggest a royal arrival unlike any we've ever seen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for Her Majesty the Queen and His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh.
And finally, during the Jubilee this year,
The party is about to start, Your Majesty.
Happy Jubilee, ma'am. And thank you for everything.
That's very kind.
brings a tear to the eye.
It does.
Doesn't it? Thank you for everything. Thanks to The Guardian for that clip. And, you know, just to be the self-effacing American that we are, this clip, which Stingray sent, I'd never heard this story, but just to wrap this up and have a laugh at ourselves and just to appreciate the humanity of Her Majesty, have a look and listen.
And normally on these picnic sites,
This is the
you
former
meet
Royal
nobody.
Protection
But
Officer,
there was two
Richard
hikers
Griffin.
coming towards us, and the Queen would always stop and say hello. And it was two Americans on a walking holiday. And it was clear from the moment that we first stopped, they hadn't recognised the Queen, which is fine. And the American gentleman was telling the Queen where he came from, where they were going to next, and where they'd been to in Britain. And I could see it coming, and sure enough, he said to Her Majesty, "And where do you live?" And she said, "Well, I live in London, but I've got a holiday home just the other side of the hills." And he said, "Well, how often have you been coming up here?" "Oh," she said, "I've been coming up here ever since I was a little girl, so over 80 years. And you could see the clogs thinking. He said, "Well, if you've been coming up here for 80 years, you must have met the Queen." And as quick as a flash says, "Well, I haven't, but Dick here meets her regularly." So the guy said to me, "Oh, you've met the Queen, what's she like?" And because I was with her a long time and I knew I could pull her leg, I said, "Oh, she can be very cantankerous at times, but she's got a lovely sense of humour." Anyway, the next thing I knew, this guy comes round, puts his arm around my shoulder, and before I could see what was happening, he gets his camera, gives it to the Queen, and says, "Can you take a picture of the two of us?" Anyway, we swapped places, and I took a picture of them with the Queen, and we never let on, and we waved goodbye. And then Her Majesty said to me, "I'd love to be a fly on the wall when he shows those photographs to the friends in America, and hopefully someone tells him who I am."
Hopefully someone tells her who I am. That was
good.
on Sky News this morning. And thanks again, Stingray, for sending that clip.
That's nice.
And that was hilarious. Thanks, Alistair Murray. This is priceless. And I don't know. It's going to be... has anyone, while we've been on the air, has anyone seen if they've announced the date for the funeral? Because it's they said demise, D-Day, plus 10 in that London Bridge plan, which would make it next Sunday, a week Sunday. But I don't see them doing it on a Sunday, nor a Monday, because you got world leaders flying in, and they don't want to fly on Sunday. They want to fly in on Monday, I think, for a funeral on Tuesday. And if it is on Tuesday, a week Tuesday, obviously we won't do a show. We'll, out of respect and everything else, we will. You know, I thought even about doing a watch party, Julia, but I don't think that's appropriate. I think we should relax and think about her. And they pushed it. Daniel Young is saying they pushed it back a day for sure. Yeah, I haven't seen until we see the actual date. We'll play that back. That's how we Yanks roll. And Americans are nice and friendly, and the Brits, what a class lot you all are. And all of us, whether we're Aussie, Kiwi, Americans, and beyond,
Yeah.
South Africans and Indians.
Even the Australians with the palms.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see when that date is. And finally, I don't have anything, didn't seem appropriate to put anything in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, except, these people, Julia, there were hard left. I'm not going to call them leftists. They're not Democrats. These people are crazed, and they're Marxists, and they're socialists, and they're communists who went online within minutes of her death, saying, this is great. Finally, she's died. Hopefully this is the end of the monarchy. This, you know, is they're racist, they're this and that. These people are bloody clueless. And all I can say, and I was going to put it under, whether it's Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, I was going to put it under, you know, correct or cretonic, because it's no question it's cretonic. I cannot imagine some of the vitriol that's coming out of people's mouths within minutes of her passing. And Julia, they you know, I don't need to say anymore.
That happens every day for lots of reasons that I just do not understand.
Yeah. Can't we all just be friends and respectful for a little bit?
Don't be naive.
Will King Charles III have the right to choose the whole castles? Oh, come on. Stingray, I'm trying to be serious here, and you guys are asking about splooting and about King Charles. Anyway, that's Whiskey Tango Foxtrot for today. That's our show for today. Thanks again to the Commodore.
He was wonderful.
Yeah, he was. Zabetakis.
Yes.
Great. And just a reminder that on next Tuesday, and we will, don't even give them airtime, Tom. I agree, Graham Sweeney, we're not going to. Rolex Big Boat Series, we're going to talk about that. That is next week, the Thursday through Sunday, the 14th through the 18th here at St. Francis Yacht Club. As we told you earlier in the show, we'll have Staff Commodore Ken Glidewell, our longtime friend, good guy, terrific sailor, terrific leader in our sport and this club. He is vice chairman of the RBBS, as we call it here, the Rolex Big Boat Series Committee. I saw Susan Rooney last night.
Oh, yeah.
She said, "Oh, it's great. Ken's coming on. He'll be." And Susan, who's the chair, longtime chair, doing a terrific job. And Julia, it is your witness.
Yes, take this opportunity to like, follow, and share. The story of the New York Yacht Club is really wonderful, and people need to hear it.
Yeah, and I think Paul made quite a positive impression on a lot of folks who think of New York, rightly or wrongly, as being kind of aloof and haughty. And they're, I mean, I joined that club in '81, and yeah, maybe back in the day, and maybe before I was involved, but it's always been a terrific sailors club, yacht racing club. Carry on, Julia, you're doing great. Oops, not that one. You can do that one too.
Well,
you know, but the comments one.
Like, follow, and share.
Well, yeah, but comments welcome too.
Indeed. And replay is always fun because we all forget things that happened in the middle of it.
And if you will, support us on Patreon, please. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Julia, any last thoughts?
No, not today. We fail to appreciate all the things we should in life openly.
I just got a text from Peter Taylor. Paul Z was in caps, great guest. This was a great episode. Thanks. Stingray saying the guest today was one amazing one. Thank you so very much. Paul is a great representative of an amazing club. Alistair Murray is saying, Alistair, you're a great representative of the sport yourself. We've got several of his A4s teed up. We're going to run maybe 2 of those on Tuesday. We'll see how things stack up. Jeff Ogle wants your scarf, Julia.
Can't have it. It's
America One, right?
It's America One, and they're disappearing. So.
Yeah. Joe Holtzman, thank you, sir. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to those who give us, obviously, video and images and audio music for these shows. We hope to see you on Tuesday. In the meantime, have a great weekend with the ones you love. I hope you go sailing, and if you do, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.